Your Psychic Powers and How to Develop Them by Hereward Carrington. Chapter 7. Know thyself was the mandate of the Delphic oracle. Before man can undertake to govern and control external forces, he must learn to control those within himself, for only by doing this can success be attained. Man utilizes his mind as he would a tool every day of his life. The better we understand our tools, the better workmen we are. Hence, he who would succeed must understand the workings of his own nature. The cosmic currents. First of all, we are told that there are cosmic currents playing to and fro in the world, contradictory currents or streams of thought into which we are liable to enter unconsciously, even against our will. Some of these currents are beneficial, others are harmful. Some natures are strong to stem the tide and achieve success against the greatest obstacles. Others can extricate themselves, but partially. Others do not do so at all. For this reason, we have the successes and the failures in life. It depends partly upon outside influences, partly upon ourselves. The first we cannot control, except indirectly through ourselves. How to make a success of your life. Here is the explanation of a great fallacy which many people make. They imagine that they can be their own will mold circumstance to suit themselves. This is only partly true. Let me explain. We must not turn our power of mind upon others. We must turn it upon ourselves in such a way that it will make us stronger, more positive, more capable, and more efficient. And as we develop in this manner, success will come of itself. The way to control circumstances is to control the forces within yourself, to make a greater man of yourself. And as you become greater and more competent, you will naturally gravitate into better circumstances. We should remember that like attracts like. For, as Dr. Larson says, those people who fail and who continue to fail all along the line fail because the power of their minds is either in a habitual negative side or is always misdirected. If the power of mind is not working positively and constructively for a certain goal, you are not going to succeed. If your mind is not positive, it is negative, and negative minds float with the stream. We must remember that we are in the midst of all kinds of circumstances, some of which are for us and some of which are against us. And we will either have to make our own way or drift, and if we drift, we go wherever the stream goes. But most of the streams of human life are found to flow into the world of the ordinary and the inferior. Therefore, if you drift, you will drift with the inferior, and your goal will be failure. The 3 laws of success. In order to achieve mental and spiritual success, 3 rules must be observed which are of prime importance. The first is that you must have in your mind a clear conception of what you want. If you have not any definite goal in view, you cannot expect to achieve any great success, because you will be constantly wasting your energy in byways without directing it all towards one certain point. The second is, you must make your thinking positive and not negative. This does not mean that you must grind your teeth, frown, and try to dominate everyone you meet. It means that you possess a calm self-assurance and the inner conviction and the certainty that you will succeed. Physically, this state of things may be felt in a full, firm sensation throughout the nervous system. The third rule is, all your thinking must be constructive, that is, built about the goal or object you have in mind. If you spend only a fraction of your energy of thought in any one direction, you cannot expect to progress very far in that line. The runner who tries at the same time to work out a mathematical problem in his head will not be first in the race. Constructive thinking means that you must consistently and continually think of and about what you wish to accomplish. The sooner you learn to do this, the sooner will success be yours. Obstacles in life present great difficulties. Up to a certain point, they may be looked upon as helps to character and progress. And the more these are overcome, the stronger will your character ultimately be. At the same time, this may be overdone, and there is such a thing as kicking against the pricks. Flowing with the tide. If you're striving your best, and every man knows in his heart when he is doing his best, to accomplish a certain thing, and more difficulties seem to multiply the further you progress, you may, under certain conditions, assume that it is not meant for you at this particular time to do this particular thing. And you may shortly look back and see how you were prevented from undertaking something that might have proven disastrous. In this way, it is possible to float with these currents instead of stemming them to advantage. Mrs. Town tells us that she, at one period of her life, could do nothing on account of her desire to rest and sleep. She determined that she would give this full play. She went to bed and stayed there for 14 days and nights. At the end of that time she felt that at last she had had enough rest, and thenceforward work became a joy instead of a burden. It proved to be the turning point in her life. Acting for our ultimate good. There are, therefore, cosmic currents swaying to and fro, flowing back and forth throughout the psychic universe. And the more we can sense or become receptive to these currents, the more will our life be guided and directed for us by an intelligent control, greater than our own. We all think that we know exactly what we want to do and what is best for us. Yet this is not always the case. To a mind vaster and more inclusive than ours, the more opposite of this may seem better for our ultimate good. For example, a dog has to have a tooth extracted. The painful operation of removing the tooth is all that the dog can see. To him, it is all painful, nothing beneficial. To us, on the contrary, who see not only what a dog sees, but more it is clear that the dog will eventually be better for the removal of his tooth, though it is a painful experience. Applied to ourselves, it is most probably true that our painful experiences in life can be interpreted in a similar manner, and that many of them could we see them in that light, for our ultimate good. How these laws apply to psychic development. Now let us apply what we have learned to psychic development and the cultivation of mediumistic gifts. We have found that there are magnetic and spiritual forces playing upon us from different directions here and there all over the world. Some of these are for our own good, others are not. We must learn to become sensitive to these currents which are beneficial to us, and shut out those which are not. How are we to do this? In the first place, it is necessary for the student who really desires to obtain this guidance to make certain renunciations or sacrifices. He cannot be in the world and at the same time receive the spiritual perfection. One cannot both eat one's cake and have it. So you must make up your mind just what you wish to do. Many mediums, unfortunately, do not develop along these lines. The cultivation of the spiritual self is not altogether the same thing as the cultivation of the psychic self, obtaining psychic phenomena. The one great reproach which has been made against many mediums and spiritualists is that spiritualists are everything but spiritual. Doubtless, this is not true of spiritualists any more than the followers of any other religious faith. Human nature is weak, and we all fall from grace. But we are now only talking of those who sincerely desire personal spiritual enlightenment, and who are willing to make some sacrifices in order to obtain it. To those who are anxious to follow this path, we would say that it is unwise to give too full directions thus early in your development. This is a question which will be discussed more fully in chapter 42. For the present, a few practical points may be helpful both in your daily life and your psychic unfoldment. Rules to follow. As is so often insisted upon, the health must be maintained. If this is not done, you render yourself liable to nervous exhaustion and, through this, to obsession. Your clear common sense and interest in the things of the world must, to a certain extent, be kept. Otherwise, the judgment will become unbalanced. Cultivate sympathy, harmony, interest in your fellow beings. Cultivate your own sensitiveness along ordinary psychic lines by various special exercises. When you obtain a certain number of psychic phenomena in this way, you will be far more receptive than you were before. Cultivate at all times what may be called a listening attitude of the soul. This is particularly important and practically valuable. When you are in doubt upon any question, retire to a quiet room and ask your own higher self what is the best thing for you to do. At first, these replies will be very vague and indistinct, but as you progress in your development, you will find that they will become clearer and clearer, and you will soon get definite and clearly formed replies in answer to this mental questioning. As soon as you have progressed thus far, you may be sure that you have begun to sense the cosmic currents which flow about you. And when once you have done this, it is thenceforward only a matter of personal development. This will be dealt with more fully in several of the chapters which follow. End of chapter 7.